And welcome back. We're turning now to our Thin Blue Line segment and the effect that bail reform has on officers working to fight crime and the criminal justice system generally. We're taking a closer look at DAs who are implementing these laws and who their possible donors are, like George Soros. This headline from 2016 has been a recurring theme over the last number of years as Soros has put hundreds of millions of dollars into these races throughout the country. Through a variety of different organizations. To discuss, we're going to be joined by former New Jersey prosecutor, who I might say was an appointed prosecutor because he's from New Jersey, and a criminal defense attorney, Bob Bianchi of the Bianchi Law Group. Bob, good to see you.
Good to see you, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Alan Dershowitz pointed out last hour that we're pretty much the only civilized country in the world that has district attorneys elected in most places. Should district attorneys be appointed or elected?
Tom, this is a lightning rod issue for me that I've been speaking about for many years. Having been appointed by the governor, the reason our Constitution did that was they're trying to relieve prosecutors from the horrible idea of being infused in politics.
Right.
So I had a 5-year term. My term actually overlapped the 4-year term of the governor. That was another mechanism to make sure prosecutors would be evaluating cases based on law and facts and not in the political system. So it never made sense to me that having elected prosecutors who are now beholden to the donors, and now after Citizens United, we have dark money going into all sorts of elections that were going to greatly influence their decisions. And I don't think that decisions in prosecutorial matters should be done by the court of public opinion as opposed to a court of law. So in the 6 years that I was the county prosecutor, I was unfettered by anybody's political opinions. I could do what I felt was the right thing. These elected prosecutors and district attorneys, and I cover a lot of cases, and you see a lot of weird results. And in my mind, it always comes down to them trying to appease their donors and their constituents.
It's just something that deserves a lot of discussion now. I mean, when you see how much money, for instance, a guy like Soros dumps, and he's a leftist. He's got a particular agenda that he's trying to drive that I happen to think is very dangerous. But he's dumping money into these races and helping to raise money for DAs. So it does deserve some attention. I want to move on to the bail reform, which is a big part of the left's agenda. President Biden has endorsed it. He's endorsed ending cash bail. But we've seen the results in places where either lower bail or no bail have been implemented. Talk to us a little bit of what your experience has been with that.
Tom, my experience has been we did need bail reform. When I became the county prosecutor, there were people in jail that couldn't make a $200 bail or a $50 bail, that were sitting in jail for 2 and 3 years waiting for their case to be heard, serving more time in the county jail than they would have gotten had they been convicted. So there were definitely issues that need to be addressed. But like I say with all things with criminal justice reform, that it can't turn into deform. You have to use the rule of reason. Violent offenders like this Brooks character is a person who should never have been released on a $1,000 bail. So a one-size-fits-all is not a good idea. Now, what really happened with some of the non-cash bail reform, where you don't need cash bail anymore, so that lower socioeconomic individuals can be bailed out, they did not include in the scoring process danger to the community as part of the scoring process. And so in Jersey, that is a major factor as to whether you're going to be released. So when I saw people replicating what New Jersey did, but then removing the danger to the community factor from the equation, thereby lowering their scores and getting them out on the street. Tom, I've worked in lower socioeconomic communities, underprivileged communities. These are the people that are taking these policies on the chin. And I've literally, as the head prosecutor, had many minority communities come in concerned that the crime was increasing because people that were violent criminals were being released from jail. And that's when we have a scoring system that has danger to the community factored into it.
Well, in New York, there isn't a scoring system anymore. They've just put in the legislation that the judge cannot issue bail and cannot hold the accused. They can't hold them any longer. They just have to let them go. It's a revolving door, and that person is getting out, and they're committing a crime again. And as you point out, they're probably committing it against another minority community or in another minority neighborhood. I want to talk about this issue of the DAs just selectively not prosecuting whole categories of crimes. In your experience, is that a decision that is even within the purview of the DA?
Prosecutors and DAs are given a tremendous amount of discretion as to what they charge and how they go about prosecuting cases. That said, there were laws I didn't like when I was a county prosecutor that I thought were over draconian, sentences that were whoppingly disproportionate for what it was that the individual did. But at the end of the day, when I swore the oath to defend the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Jersey.
Right.
So it did not give me a blanket right to just, on my own, Bob Bianchi, can decide to just overturn what the legislature put into place. Now, I could certainly not emphasize it as much. I could put my resources into more violent crimes and gang interdiction and things of that nature. But in the end, I just can't advocate prosecuting cases that are brought to me when the law's been violated.
And look, the reason why we're talking about this is that this is the type of thing that can happen in any place, particularly where you have, a left-wing district attorney, or you have one-party rule and you've got some really wacky stuff going on that can create an environment that isn't good for anybody. It's not good for law-abiding citizens. It's not good for people who are on the wrong side of the law either, in terms of getting them back on the straight and narrow. It just doesn't work. Bob Bianchi, thank you so much for your insights. You've had so much experience in this area. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Tom.
Up next.